The diplomatic reception hall on Unity Station was a charnel house of broken trust. Commander Valerius Kine, his own mind a storm of amplified doubts and old grudges, watched in horror as the carefully constructed alliances of 1,000 years dissolved around him. The usually placid Xylians, their crystalline forms shimmering with righteous fury, were screaming accusations of ancient betrayals at the communal Solari. Security forces, moments ago a unified front of diverse species, were now drawing energy weapons on each other, their faces contorted by irrational hatred over imagined slights. No physical attack had struck the station. Instead, a sickening psychic pressure permeated the air, a whisper that burrowed into the mind, amplifying every unresolved conflict, every unspoken resentment, every forgotten slight. Valerius felt it twisting his own thoughts, turning minor annoyances into burning hatreds, resurrecting long-buried resentments against his own colleagues, his family. Through the shattered viewport in the silent black of space, a vast, translucent, almost invisible entity shimmered. The Severa, its presence was felt as a cold, sharp blade that cut through loyalty, leaving only isolation. What was this thing? What had it done to them? And what was it doing to him? It had appeared from the interdimensional rifts, a phantom menace. The first species to encounter it, the empathic Xylians, had warned the galaxy of its insidious nature before their own civilization imploded. They had named it the Severa. It was an ancient, psionically potent entity that fed on the rupture of bonds. It didn't engage in physical combat. It simply moved through star systems, subtly amplifying existing resentments, creating devastating misunderstandings, twisting words until they became insults, and magnifying minute differences until they became chasms. Its touch caused alliances to collapse, families to splinter, and even individual minds to fragment into warring factions. It left behind societies consumed by internal strife, easily conquered by opportunists, or simply decaying from within, dying not from war, but from the inability to connect. The Xylians, a species whose entire existence was built on universal empathy, found their empathic links their greatest strength, twisted into conduits of magnified suspicion and shared paranoia. Their collective consciousness, once a tapestry of shared understanding, dissolved into a chaotic, terrifying maelstrom of magnified resentments, leading to a collective mental breakdown. Their strength became their undoing. The Solari, a communal species whose entire existence was built on shared consciousness, experienced a horrifying fragmentation. Their communal mind, once a seamless unity, fractured into billions of isolated, hostile fragments. Each Solari, now a solitary, terrified being consumed by its own amplified grievances against its former collective, withered into nothingness. Their very unity was the path to their complete disunity. Each species in its core strength had offered the Severa a pathway. Their empathy, their communal bonds, all became amplifiers for their own destruction. Humanity was next. General Lena Petrova, head of Earth's Unified Defense Council, stood in the war room, the holoprojector showing the translucent, shimmering form of the Severa drawing closer to Sol. Its influence was already touching Earth's outer systems, probes reporting crippling psychological effects. Domestic crime rates spiked. Old ethnic and political rivalries flared into open conflict. Even families were breaking apart over trivialities. It feeds on disunity, Petrova stated, her voice grim. It exploits the logical progression of disagreement into alienation. Other species, even those with incredible unity or perfect empathy, eventually reached a point where, logically, reconciliation was impossible. And then it consumed them. She looked at the weary faces around the table. But humans are different. We generate disunity, yes, We have conflicts, betrayals, but we also have something else. Something illogical, something maddeningly persistent. She brought up a series of seemingly absurd images on the holoscreen. A child tearfully apologizing to a sibling after a petty fight, then sharing a toy. Two former rivals, forced to work together on a life-or-death mission, finding an unexpected camaraderie. A soldier offering water to a wounded enemy. A couple, after a bitter argument, inexplicably reaching for each other's hands. The shared awkward laughter that defuses tension. The simple, illogical act of reaching out a hand, even when angry. The stubborn memory of shared joy despite present conflict. Reconciliation, Petrova said, her voice gaining a fierce edge. Irrational, illogical, stubborn, glorious reconciliation. We break each other, but then, inexplicably, we mend. We betray, but we forgive. We fight, but we make up. We connect when all logic dictates isolation. This is our weapon. The plan was audacious, desperate, and utterly contrary to every logical military strategy. They wouldn't fight. They would broadcast, not aggression, but an overwhelming, irrational, persistent reconciliation. Not logical arguments, but pure, unadulterated human stubbornness to bridge divides, even when they logically shouldn't. A deluge of raw, unseverable human connection. Back on Unity Station, Valerius felt the Severer's psychic pressure intensify. His own deepest resentments boiled to the surface, pushing him to lash out at the Xylian representative beside him. His will was almost gone, dissolving into the overwhelming wave of hatred. Then, the counter-broadcast hit. It wasn't a coherent signal, but a cacophony of raw, illogical human connection, blasting directly into the Severer's psychic field. The sound of a child's unwavering desire to play with a friend after a fight. A foolish promise of solidarity made in jest that was kept through impossible odds. The sheer, irrational comfort of a terrible shared joke that broke tension. The illogical decision to hug someone who had just insulted you. The shared comfort of a simple, illogical touch given with no practical benefit. The stubborn, unyielding drive to find common ground, despite all evidence pointing to irreparable division. The defiant burst of laughter when an old grudge was brought up, because it seemed so pointless now. The Severer screamed, not a physical sound, but a mental shriek of agony that ripped through Valerius's mind. It thrived on the rupture of bonds, on the logical progression of conflict to separation. But this irrational, unyielding capacity for reconciliation and reconnection was anathema to it. It could not consume what it fundamentally could not break. It could not feed on what actively defied its very nature. Its internal psychic energy flickered, its vast, translucent form convulsed. The Severer, unable to integrate such a powerful, illogical surge of anti-disunity, recoiled. Its shadowy form convulsed again, then, with a final, silent spasm, it retreated into the void, leaving behind a profound emotional quiet. It was not destroyed, but it was unable to feed. It had encountered a fundamental mismatch, a species that generated reconciliation where logic dictated only permanent rupture. The crushing pressure of disunity lifted from Unity Station. Valerius collapsed, exhausted but alive, his mind clearing of the phantom hatreds. He looked at the still furious Xylian representative, their crystalline form no longer shimmering with pure hatred, but with lingering confusion and annoyance. He offered a weary, understanding nod. The irrational venom was gone, leaving only the memory of their shared purpose. General Petrova's voice, hoarse but triumphant, echoed across the general comms. "It's gone." It pulled back. It couldn't process us. It classified us as unquantifiable reconciliation. Too much effort to consume, too much us. Valerius let out a shaky laugh. Humanity had survived. not because they lacked conflict, but because they held onto a defiant, illogical, unyielding core of connection, even when all bonds were logically severed. And in a universe where disunity was a weapon, humanity's greatest strength was its stubborn, irrational refusal to stay broken.